to the Pilates Zoom, not the Zoom, yeah, if you're new to the Zoom class or new to the Facebook Live class, we'll be working those deep abdominals, muscles, deep back muscles and pelvic floor, and allowing our breath to come and go nice and gently. Do take your time to listen into your breath, listen into your body, and do what's right for you and your body today, which could be different from what it was, you know, a few days ago even. So just allowing yourself to respond to that. So we've got those feet underneath our hips, and we'll allow the toes to point forward. So we're going to have our body stacked nicely on top of itself. Allowing ourselves to zone in on our breathing to begin with then. Let's close the eyes if you feel comfortable enough to, and allow the breath to just come and go nice and gently. So we'll allow the breath to come gently in and out of the rib cage. And let's allow that breath to really expand, deepen and lengthen. And as we do, let's allow ourselves to just zone in on our body and how it's feeling today. Let's allow any external concerns to just be left outside of the door, and allow ourselves to focus in on how our body's feeling today, right now, right here. So the breath allows, we allow the breath to flow a little deeper, maybe expanding all the way down into the pelvis. Allowing that breath to flow right down into the pelvic bowl, as we allow ourselves to find a sense of softness into the hip sockets and into the knees. And we'll just gently allow our weight to track over the front of our feet, and gently tracking into the back of the feet. Just taking it through those two extremes. And we'll find that place where our weight's right in the centre of the 2 feet. And when we find that place, we're soft into the knees and soft into the hips. Let's just take a moment to connect into the arches of the feet, allowing them to lift up gently. And then allowing ourselves to find a little lift through the pelvic floor. Finding a sense of length through the spine. Top of the head floats up towards the space above us. We'll take a deep breath from there and let the shoulders lift, and we'll roll the shoulders gently back and down. And again, the shoulders can lift and roll back and down. Keep that going for me. Morning Facebook Livers, you're all coming in, starting to switch in to us. That's brilliant. We're just taking a few gentle rolls with the shoulders as we start to switch in on our body. So let's allow those shoulders to ease towards one another and sink down towards the tailbone. As we glide the shoulders down towards the tailbone, let's draw in through the deep abdominal muscles. So we're going to lift up gently through the pelvic floor, draw in through the abdomen, and allow the breath to come and go nice and gently. So let's just take a moment with one hand below the belly button and one hand above the belly button. And we're going to allow ourselves to breathe deeply into that top hand, at the same time as keeping that connection in the bottom hand. So underneath the bottom hand stays really nice and still as you allow yourself to find that nice connection into the pelvic floor, into the deep abdominal muscles. And at the same time, you're allowing that top hand to find freedom of movement as you allow the breath to flow nice and fully into the hand. And then we'll allow those arms to release away. And we'll take a little bend through the knees, just allowing the knees to track forwards, and then we'll lengthen nice and tall. Lovely. So as we do that, we're thinking about the tailbone descending downwards, and then the top of the head lengthening upwards. So we soften through the knees and find the full surface of the foot equally across the balls of the feet and the heel, with that little engagement through the arches of the feet. The tailbone descends down, and then we lengthen the legs and the head extends upwards. Good, let's do that with the arms. So let's allow the arms to gently open and allowing the legs to lengthen. Lovely. Nice, good. And bending through the knees. And then allowing those legs to lengthen. Lovely. Just one more for me there. And then as the legs lengthen, let's take a little side bend. We'll gently come up and over to the right side. And coming through the centre, up and over to the second side. Good, keeping that going for me. Head extends up and away. Yeah, and if you feel you want to add in that top arm, by all means do. We can lift up and over. Lovely. And we'll finish off on the second side, and then we'll come into those spine twists. So we'll allow the hands to come into the centre, lengthening nice and tall through the spine, let the shoulders glide down the back, strengthen through the core muscles, and let the rib cage gently rotate around. Breathing in as we return back to the centre. Lovely, so taking those spine twists there, hands come together, hands right in front of the breastbone, letting those shoulders glide down the back. And as we do, we're looking to keep the pelvis nice and stable and still. Lovely. As we finish off, let's bring ourselves back into the centre. Take a deep breath, we'll allow the arms to release down by our sides. And let's allow ourselves to find a little bit of energy through the right hand. So we're going to flex into the right hand, and then we're going to allow the fingertips to point forwards, and then we'll rotate the hand back behind us. And forwards. Strong in the core, back behind us. Lovely, and in front. Now just the right hand gently opens out to the side. And then softening down. And we'll just see how high we can lift that arm. Some of us will find that we get like pins and needles feeling down the arm at a certain point. If it just gets a little way and you need to come back down, that's absolutely fine. Seeing if you can maintain that sense of energy through the hand. Lovely, and release it there. Give it a good shake out. Lovely, and then we'll change over to the other side, finding that energy into the left hand. Fingertips point forwards, and then the fingers point back behind us. And then gently pointing forwards. Lovely. Good. Hi, Abby. And pointing back behind us. And forwards. Lovely. Just one more like that. And then outside of the hand with energy pushes away from us. Good. Keep that going for me. Now let's see if we can keep this top shoulder gliding down so it's not lifting up towards the ear. And just notice if you start to do a little lean away to sort of compensate for the torso, for the arm. We'll see if we can stay really lengthened through the body. Notice it might not be as, you might not get as much lift in this arm as you did in the other arm, or vice versa. See how it feels. Lovely. And then we'll give the arm a little bit of a shake out. Good. We'll take a roll down through the spine, so I'm going to show you on the side. Taking a deep breath from there, we breathe out, we allow the chin to tuck towards the chest, we allow the head to become heavy, and we'll start to gently roll down through the spine, coming down through the vertebrae. Gently, bit by bit, piece by piece. We'll take a breath at the bottom. And then we'll breathe out as we roll up through the spine. Let's do that a few times, just working for that movement through the spine. So releasing through the top of the head, rolling down through the vertebrae bit by bit, piece by piece. Nice deep breath at the bottom, and then breathing out as we roll back up through the spine. When we get to the top, let's roll the shoulders back and down, and we'll allow both arms to float forwards and up. Breathing in as the arms float back down. And again, release through the top of the head, rolling down through the spine, coming down through the vertebrae. Nice deep breath at the bottom, and then rolling up through the spine. Lifting the shoulders, rolling them back and down, both arms float forwards and up. And the arms float back down. Once again like that. Nice deep breath at the bottom. And we're rolling up through the spine. And as the head comes on top, we lift the shoulders, we roll the shoulders back and down, both arms float forwards and up. Lovely. Breathing in as the arms float back down. Take a little bend of the knees, let the arms open out to the side. And then we'll lengthen in the legs. Lovely. Good. Let's take some balance work from here. So we'll allow the eyes to open. We'll find a fixed spot on the wall in front of us that we can focus on. We'll take a breath and allow the right foot to lift just an inch away from the floor. And then we'll float that foot gently down. And changing over to the other side, the opposite foot starts to lift away. Lovely. And floating gently down. We allow that right foot to lift, and then we can allow the knee to gently open out to the side. Beautiful. Breathing in as we come back to the centre, floating gently down. Lovely. So let your focus be on keeping those hips nice and stable and still. Nice and stable through the hips, drawing back in and floating down. Good. Lovely. So this time we're going to allow the leg to lift. We'll let the knee open out to the side. Let the leg come back in, and then we'll stretch the leg behind us. There's a little tip forward through the torso as the leg comes back behind us so that we don't pinch into the back. Again, on the other side we lift. Knee opens out to the side. Coming back into the centre, and we'll stretch the leg away from us. Now, let the neck stay lengthened and drawing the leg back in. And if you feel ready to, this time we'll tip the torso also. So as we extend the leg behind us, the torso stays in line with the leg and it just comes parallel to the floor. Drawing the leg back in. Let's do that on the other side. Knee opens out to the side, coming back to the centre, extending the leg back behind us. Notice that we want to try and keep our hips as square as we can. Let's do it once with the arms. So we'll allow the arms to lift, open the arms out to the side, coming back to the centre, and then allow that leg to extend back behind us. Good. Once again on the other side. Allow the leg to lift. Knee opens out to the side. Coming back to the centre. And lengthening back behind us. And coming back into the centre. Take a deep breath. Breathing out as we take a little rise, so the heels lift away from the floor, and then we're floating the heels back down again. Lovely. Keep that going for me. Yeah, okay. I'll see what I can do, Rachel. breath for me. As you breathe out, where am I? Breathing out, we'll roll down through the spine. Let's come into our push-up exercise. So we're bending through the knees. We'll allow the hands to gently walk forwards, and we'll allow the hands to go nice and wide of the shoulders. Chest gently lowers, let the elbows go wide. We'll breathe out as we push up and away from the floor. Walking the hands back in, rolling up through the spine, take a little rise. So the head becomes nice and heavy. We roll up through the vertebrae and allow ourselves to take a little rise and floating down. Keep that going for me. If you want to challenge yourself further, you can walk those hands out really far. You can allow yourself to walk the hands further. Okay, Zoom guys, I've muted you. If you want to come and tell me anything, please come and unmute yourself. I'm just muting you so that you can stay focused on me for most of the time. So we're taking that roll down through the spine. Further forward we go, the more of a challenge we'll find. If you know that your spine doesn't respond very well to those roll ups and roll downs, then by all means you can stick to a squat instead and then bringing yourself into the push-up. If you know hands and knees isn't a great option for you, or coming up and down isn't a great option, just take a couple more and then we'll come all the way down to the floor altogether. So we're coming to the floor. Let's take the hands nice and wide. Chest gently lowers. We'll breathe out as we push up and away from the floor. Let's allow ourselves to sit back onto our heels. We'll lengthen the arms in front of us, rest the forehead and breathe nice and gently. If you find it difficult to sit all the way back onto your heels, maybe take the knees wider and let the toes come in together, so you've got that nice sense of stretch. That's better, Leslie. I found you again.
Yeah, my laptop ran out of battery.
Ah. Let's walk the hands over to the right side and we'll take a nice long stretch across the left side of the body. As you reach across the left side, so feel that the left hand's really reaching across you and you're pushing into the left hip. Take a nice deep breath there. And then we'll walk the hands around to the other side. Reach the right hand across you. Pull back through the right hip. That's it, lovely. Lovely. How are we doing on Facebook Live? We all okay? Take a nice deep breath. Walk the hands back into the centre. Let's come on to hands and knees and we'll take a little bit of work on hands and knees there. So we've got the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. Shoulders gliding down the back. Let's take a little cat stretch just to get our spine nicely moving. So we'll push the back up into the sky, let the head drop between the arms, the tailbone points down. And then we lengthen the head and the tail away from one another, gliding the shoulders down the back and the head extends out and away. Again, we breathe out, we push the back up into the sky, head drops between the arms, tailbone points down. And we lengthen the head and the tail away from one another. Let's do that again once more. Shoulders glide down the back. So we'll take a nice deep breath from there. Let's take our thread in the needle. So we'll weave the hand, the right hand weaves through the gap between the hand and the knee. And we'll breathe in as we return back to the centre. Changing over sides. Opposite arm reaches through. And coming back to the centre. Now if you want to, you can accentuate that a little bit by allowing the arm to reach on up before you weave it through. Let's check that we've got that nice sense of connection through the tummy. As we do that, we reach the arm up and feeding through. So we're changing arms each time. Let's finish off on the second side. And then we'll allow ourselves to lower all the way down to the floor. And we'll take a little bit of work for the upper back. Let's start off by allowing the elbows to go nice and wide, and we'll let the fingers point forwards. We'll just allow the right ear to just rest down onto the floor. So you've got a nice sense of stretch through the neck. If this feels like too much of a stretch for you, too much of a rotation, just allow your eyes to be fixed on the floor, that's fine. If this feels like a nice stretch for your neck, then stay as you are. So once we're here, we're going to start to really connect into the deep abdominal muscles. So let's imagine that there's a precious little egg underneath our belly button and that we're trying to not squash. So we'll keep that sense that our precious little egg is going to stay nice and safe. We'll take a deep breath and we'll allow the head to lift and the neck rotates so the head looks in the opposite direction, and then we rest the head down. Take a nice deep breath, the head lifts and rotates back the other way. Good. Keep that going for me. Now, if you're finding that's too much in your neck, allow your nose to be just hovering an inch away from the floor. So as you want to move away from that position, you allow the nose to come away a little bit away from the floor, and we float back down. I want you to see if you can instigate that breastbone lift from the shoulder blades and the upper back. So the shoulder blades are going to start to descend down the back, and the breastbone is going to start to lift. So if you're still taking the rotation, it's lovely. We'll rest down in between each one. But let's see if now we can start to really instigate this action from the shoulders as they glide down the back, getting that sense of really being open across the front of the chest. And at the same time, we're working the core. The belly button is drawing inwards, tailbone is descending down. Nice deep breath. If you feel ready to, keep the eyes fixed on the floor for me. Just allow the hands to turn so the thumbs are pointing upwards. Keep that energy through the spine. We'll lengthen the arms forwards. And then we'll draw the elbows back. Shoulders glide down the back. And again, we'll lengthen the fingertips forwards. Breathing in as the elbows pull down the back. And just one more. Elbows pull down, shoulders glide down. And we float gently down. Let's roll onto our side. I'm coming onto my left side. See what works for you. I'd recommend it be in a position which means you can now see what I'm doing, but up to you. Let the head rest down. Shoulders are on top of one another. Hips are on top of one another. Take a little look down. Check you can see your toes, if you can normally see your toes when you're standing. And we'll take a nice deep breath and we'll stretch and lengthen the legs away from us. So both our legs are reaching and lengthening away. Now in some of my classes, I find that when we stretch the legs away, some people get soreness in their neck and some people get a pinching in their lower back. So you may want to just focus in on getting that head to really rest on down and making sure that the legs are stretching away from you and lengthening down through the tailbone. That'll hopefully stop the lower back issue and hopefully get the neck to really relax here. If you still find it's too much, the bottom leg can stay on the floor and the knee can be bent. But we'll see if we can get those legs to lengthen. If we can manage it, that'd be marvellous. Maybe the top hand's resting on the floor. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's resting by our side. Keep breathing for me. Let's allow that top leg to gently circle. So this exercise is a stamina exercise as well as a balance exercise, which is why I then talk at you for some time to kind of keep you lengthened and extending. Obviously, I appreciate that you're thinking, God, I wish Emma would shut up and get on with her next exercise. Let's allow that top shoulder to glide down the back as we keep breathing. Let's take that circle in the opposite direction. If you're thinking, this circle's making my hips knock all over the place, you can let the hand rest down on the floor, or just leave those circles out and work on finding the balance. The bigger you make the circle, the harder it is for you to stay on balance. So just work out where that challenge place is for you. One more breath. Keep the legs reaching and lengthening, both legs lengthening for me. Top arm lifts up and over. Beautiful. We've got a nice sense of length. Everything's lengthening. Feet are lengthening away. Legs are lengthening. Absolutely, guys. If you want to take that little side bend, you can do. So the top hand reaches. And if you want to, you add that little side bend in there. Breathing in as we float back down. Beautiful. Just one more like that. And floating gently down. Soften the legs in. Bring the knees in. And give anything a little rub that needs a little rub. Or a bash. So from there, we'll squeeze in through the tummy. We'll allow the top hip to tip gently forwards. So the top knee overlaps the bottom knee. We'll squeeze in through the tummy and allow the top knee to gently lift. And gently lower. Lovely. Let's take 4 more like that. Oh, hey Bowen, welcome. Now you see I wasn't counting. I'm going to assume that was number 5. We're going to glue the knees together and we're going to allow both feet to lift and gently lower. Squeezing in through the tummy, feet lift, gently lower. Lovely, 2 more. Hold this one up there. Let's take that little knee lift, extend away, draw the leg back in, floating down, and just one more like that. Lift away, just because I like to use the word développé, and drawing the leg back in and floating gently down. Let's take hold of that foot so we can stretch out through the front of the thigh. Lengthening across the front of the thigh. Draw the foot in as close as you can to your bottom. The knee stretches away from you. And we find that sense of being nicely connected through the tummy. Hip bones tuck under. Knee pulls gently back. And releasing from there. Let's take those opening up like a book. The opening up like a book exercise. So if you've got a cushion, you want to pop it under your head, now's a good time to do that. Allowing the head to rest on down. Taking a breath, that top arm starts to lift and the eyes are fixed on the hand. And we breathe in as we allow the arm to return. Let's do that a couple of times and then we'll just allow ourselves to find those little chalk circles. Some people like them, some people don't. If you want to stick with this exercise, by all means do. That's it, Jill, nice. So the top hand is then going to stay connected to the floor. It's as if you're drawing a little semicircle around the top of your head with your arm. And we just go to that place where fingertip to fingertip are connected and then we draw the arm back. And you might find that you get a really quite intense stretch across the chest, and that's okay. Even down the arm, that's okay. And finishing off there, let's bring ourselves up onto our elbow. Side plank. So let's allow ourselves to find a position that works for us. We're going to allow the feet to be in line with the pelvis, and then the elbow's going to be in line with the pelvis also. Now, if you want more of a challenge, you can allow the knees to be in line with the pelvis, or you can allow both the legs to lengthen away from you. You choose the option that works well for you. Lovely. The elbow is, look, this is not a very helpful top. The elbow's underneath the rib cage. No, it's not. It's underneath the shoulder. The rib cage is lifting. So as you lift, yeah, beautiful, you allow that shoulder to really glide down the back. So you might find that you then need to shuffle the elbow in a little bit more. Head extends out and away. Lots of length through the top of the head. Shoulders are gliding down the back. We take a nice deep breath there. We lift the pelvis. We breathe in as we soften down. Take 3 more like that for me. Beautiful. Keep it going for me. That's better. I believe this is your last one. And then we'll allow those fingertips to come through the gap in the hand and in this window you've made, and then gently opening that. Let's take 2 more. Now, as we do that, let's make sure this bottom shoulder is really energising down the back so that we're getting lots of space for the neck. Last one. And we soften down. Come on up to sit. Woohoo! Nice one, guys. It's a bit intense for a Monday morning, wasn't it? Let's allow ourselves to roll those shoulders back and down. Just allow them to release gently. And then we'll roll the shoulders back in the opposite direction. Lovely. Good. So I've got my legs crossed. I've got my left leg in front of me. So we'll take a nice deep breath and we'll just allow ourselves to ease gently forwards. Nice deep breath. See if we can ease into that stretch. Yeah, good. And then we'll lift up nice and tall. Let's change over the leg that's in front. And then let's allow the head to gently tip. So we'll allow the right ear to dip over to the right side. Coming through the centre, up and over to the opposite side. And once again on each side. Lovely. Bringing the head into the centre, let's allow the head to gently rotate around. Good. And then as you come into the centre, just take a moment to dip the chin in and for that lengthening across the back of the neck. Should feel quite nice. Let those shoulders melt away. And then bring the head back on top. Once again, we'll walk the hands forwards. So we should get a stretch in the opposite buttock. Shoulders melting down the back. And lengthening out through the torso. Lovely. And lifting nice and tall. Let's take the legs wide. Lifting nice and tall for me there. Shoulders glide down the back. We'll take a little reach up and over to the right side. Now, the right hand's going to be right beside the pelvis. So as if there were a ruler running from your pelvis out to the sides. Try not to knock the arm back, but keep it in line with your pelvis. Same on the other side. In line with the pelvis, lifting up and over. Coming through the centre, once again, up and over. Good. Seeing if we can keep both sides of the pelvis really well grounded. So both sides of both buttocks stay on the floor. No daylight underneath the buttocks. Lifting nice and tall. Let your rib cage rotate towards the right long leg. Left arm reaches and lengthens. And breathing in as we lift nice and tall. Change over sides. I decided to drag Daniel out on his bike on Saturday. And it ended up that he dragged me up a few hills. So I'm a little bit tight in the old legs today. I won't be reaching quite as far as I might have done at another time. And lifting tall, well done. Now let's shuffle the legs in and find a place where we can lengthen up really nice and tall. It might be with the legs nice and wide. It might be with the feet on the floor and the knees bent. It might be better if you're sitting on a cushion, or some of us prefer to be round on our knees to take our spine twists, whichever works well for you. But we'll allow ourselves to be in a place where the tailbone can really descend down. And the spine can lengthen up from there and the head floats up on top. So the shoulders glide down the back and we draw the fingertips in towards one another. Head extending out and away, strong through the core. Take a breath and we'll allow the rib cage to gently rotate around to the right side. And we'll breathe in as we return back to the centre. And then rotating the rib cage around to the opposite side. Breathing in as we return back to the centre. Keep that going for me. Nice and strong through the tummy. With a sense of lengthening at the same time as the tailbone's descending. Finishing off on that second side, and then we'll bring ourselves onto our other elbow. So I'm on this other side. We've got the elbow directly underneath our shoulder. So what sometimes happens is we kind of get into this position, and then once we lift up, the elbow is like a long way away from us. It's making more of a diagonal line. So what we want to do is once we're lifted, make sure that the elbow's right underneath the shoulder once again. We've got the feet just feet on top of one another, hips on top of one another, unless you're taking the more advanced option, which is a marvellous thing. We take a deep breath in. As we breathe out, let's lift. And we breathe in as we float back down. And we lift. And softening down. Good. Lovely. That's it. Good. Last one. Hold it for me here. Let's take the hand through the gap between the knees and the elbow. And we'll lift on up. And again, we rotate through. Nice sense of strength through the core muscles. And last one, floating the pelvis down, and let's allow ourselves to lengthen out into that nice long line. Once we're there, we've got the legs stretching out and away from us, we've got the head resting down, shoulders gliding down the back. We'll take a nice deep breath from there and we'll breathe out and we'll stretch and lengthen the legs away from us. Good. Legs extend away. Again, find that sense that the tailbone is really reaching away from you. So you've got that sense of lengthening down the back of the body. we've got that sense of drawing the abdomen in and up. So there's a sense that the rib cage and the pelvis are really trying to kind of shorten the distance between those two places at the same time as the tailbone reaches away. Feel that the legs are stretching away from you. So rather than wanting to lever from the legs, we're thinking about lengthening. So there's no discomfort through that knobbly bit of the hip, of the thigh. So the top shoulder is going to lift and roll gently down the back. If you need to keep the fingertips touching, that's fine. Gently circling that top leg, gently circle. Breathing out for half the circle, breathing in to complete the circle. Keep that going for me. Good. Strength through the core. Keep the energy in that bottom leg. Bottom leg stays lifting. Let's see if we can change the direction of the circle. Strength through the core muscles. Extending and lengthening. Last one. Keep the legs reaching, lengthening. Allow that top arm to lift up and over. And drawing the arm back. See if we can really glide the shoulder blade down the back. So there's a real sense of energy down the back of the body. Those of us who want to take that side bend, now's a good time to do that. Keep the fingertips reaching, reaching, reaching. We lengthen and floating back down. Just one more like that. And lifting. And we float back down, float the legs down, softening through the knees. Give it a bash or a rub, whatever works for you. And then we'll allow that top hip to tip slightly forward, scooping in through the tummy. Top knee lifts and lowers. Take a deep breath and we lift. And gently lower. Good. Keep that going for me. Taking 3 more like that. Hello, Dave. Allowing the knees to gently glue together. We've got that squeeze in through the tummy. And then let's allow both the feet to lift. And gently lower. And we lift. And lower. Lovely. Let's hold it up there this time. Allow the top knee to lift, definitely through the leg so the knee stays absolutely still and the toe extends out and away. We draw the toe back in, floating gently down and down. Let's do that again. Toes lift, knee lifts. Keep that bottom foot lifted as we stretch the leg away, floating back in and releasing all the way down. Taking hold of that top foot. Stretching the top foot away. Foot comes in nice and close to the bottom. Knee stretches away from you and then just check that you've got that shoulder really gliding down the back. And that's it, nice. Nice and deep with the breath. And then releasing from there. Allowing both the arms to come forwards. Resting the head down onto the floor or find a cushion if you've got one to hand. Take a nice deep breath and allow the top arm to gently open. And we'll breathe in as the arm gently returns. See, I'm a little bit nervous of my side work now since I did that class the other week and forgot some of the stuff on the second side. The bit where you all have to pause the video and do it without me. Let's see if we can take those little chalk circles there. So we'll allow the top hand to stay resting down onto the floor And we'll allow the fingertips to stay connected as we take the arms circling over the head and around, and then circling gently back. It feels really nice through the chest. You get a really good stretch through across the front of the chest there, down the arm for some people. And then let's allow ourselves to come onto our backs. So once we're here on our backs, we'll allow the feet to be just hip distance apart. We'll allow the knees to bend. Just take a moment to allow yourself to have a little wriggle in the pelvis. So if we imagine that the pelvis is a bowl of water filled to the top, we're going to gently rock some water over the pubic bone into the belly button. We'll do that a few times, tipping gently forwards, gently back. And then let's see about tipping our water from hip bone to hip bone, side to side. And you might even want to take a full circular pathway with the pelvis. And then we can take that circular pathway back the other way. And then we'll find that place where hip bone and pubic bone come to level with one another. Once we're there, we're softening the rib cage down into the ground. So just check that you've not flared up through the rib cage, but you've got that sense that it's really descending down. Now, connecting into those core muscles, there's a natural curve in the lower back. We're going to draw in through the deep abdominal muscles, draw in through the pelvic floor. And we'll take a breath and we'll allow the right arm to gently float up and over the head. Breathe in as the arm floats back by your side. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So the arm floats upwards, the shoulder blade is working to stay sinking down into the ground, and then we'll draw that arm back. Let's keep doing that, changing sides each time. And then when you feel as though you've got that sense that the rib cage is nice and stable, shoulders are sinking down the back, we can allow the opposite leg to extend away at the same time. So as the arm lengthens away, the opposite leg lengthens away. It feels like a really nice lengthening across the body. Notice for me whether your neck has started to extend. So we want to keep the chin tucked inward slightly, just enough that you've got that length across the back of the neck. If you find that you're getting a tension through the neck now, by all means pop the cushion back under your head, and it might just allow you to just find that length in the back of the neck. Let's finish off the one that we're doing, preferably making sure you're even on both sides. That would be a marvellous thing. And then we've got the feet just hip distance apart, pelvis is nice and level, rib cage is resting down into the floor. We scoop in through the tummy, taking a nice deep breath for me there. We'll allow the right knee to lift to hover above the hip socket, bringing the calf to that 90-degree angle. We'll take our knee circles from here, so gently stir in the thigh bone within the hip socket. The ultimate challenge here is to keep the hips nice and still. So hips and pubic bone stay level with one another. Rib cage stays resting into the floor. And then we'll change the direction of the circle. Now you may find it's easier in one direction than the other. That's okay. We want to see if we can keep the hips really nice and stable and still. We want to keep the pelvis nice and stable and still. And the larger we make that circle, the more of a challenge it's going to be for us. Just hold that knee right above the hip socket for me once again. Take a nice deep breath. We'll stretch the leg so that we find extension through the knee. And then we'll bend the knee once again. So the knee staying hovering above the hip socket. We stretch the leg up for the sky. That's it, lovely. And then floating back down. Let's take 2 more like that. Rib cage stays sinking down. And just 1 more. And then we'll float that foot gently down to the floor and we'll change over to the other side. So the left knee lifts. Hips are nice and still, neutral spine. We'll gently circle that left thigh bone. Breathing out for half the circle, breathing in to complete the circle. Keeping that nice sense of connection through the tummy. Hi Tracy, nice to have you in the class. Lovely. And then we'll change the direction of the circle and we'll come in the opposite direction. Rib cage stays softening down, pelvis stays nice and stable and still. And then let's allow that knee to stay hovering above the hip socket. Hips and pubic bone are level as we allow the leg to gently extend. And we bend the knee. Lovely. So this is an active hamstring stretch. We're looking to see if we can keep the pelvis nice and stable and still as we allow that leg to stretch. Annoying. And last one. Floating the foot down. Take a nice deep breath for me. We're going to see if we can find our 2-legged 100 position. So we take a deep breath in. We allow the right knee to lift. From there, we push the lower back into the floor and we allow the second leg to lift. Once you've got 2 legs lifted, just allow yourself to bring the knees back over the hip socket if you can. If you can manage this, but with the knees a bit closer, that's fine. Stay as you are. Now, once we're in this position, we've got the back pressing into the floor. We've got the belly button squeezing in. If you feel as though it's causing a strain in your lower back, it's causing discomfort in your lower back, work with 1 leg lifted instead of 2. If you feel as though your tummy isn't scooping downwards, so your deep abdominal muscles are struggling, then it would be better to work with 1 leg lifted rather than 2. Let's lengthen the arms up towards the sky. We'll let the shoulders melt down into the ground. Palms come to face one another. Nice and deep with the breath, we'll gently circle. Breathing out for half the circle. Breathing in to complete the circle. Shoulders sinking down into the ground, rib cage is nice and soft. Lovely. We'll take 3 more in this direction and then we'll change to the opposite direction. If you're working with 1 leg lifted, by all means take a little stretch of the leg away, breathe in as the leg returns, and then when we change the direction of the arms, we'll change the leg as well. If you're working with 2 legs lifted, you can alternate legs, so you can stretch the leg away and then draw the leg back in and then change over to the opposite leg. Now, we're going to change the direction of those arm circles. So, the arms will circle in the opposite direction. See if you can still keep the shoulders gliding down the back. See if you can still keep the rib cage sinking into the floor. Nice and deep with the breath. Last one there. Bring the knees in, give them a good hug. And then gently just rocking from side to side. Releasing out through the back. And we'll just take a little stretch for the hamstring. So we'll allow the left foot to rest down onto the floor. We'll lengthen the right leg up towards the sky. Take a hold around the back of the thigh. And we'll let those shoulders melt down into the ground. And we'll see if we can allow ourselves to find full extension through that leg. And maybe as the extension comes into the leg, we might be able to hold on a bit higher up the leg. We might not. We might find that we are holding on around the thigh. Some of us get into this stretch and tell me that your arms aren't long enough. In which case you might want a band or a belt or something along those lines. I've got a really baggy jumper today, so you can put that around, wrap that around your feet and hold on to the ends. So if your arms just aren't long enough to hold your leg, then that's a good option for then getting that stretch into the hamstring. And then hopefully over time we'll get it to ease in nice and close to us. From there, allow your right leg to go across your left knee. Right foot comes across the left knee. We'll let the right knee fall open to the side. Now we can press that right knee away from us. And if you want a little bit of extra stretch, weave in the hands around the left thigh and ease in the legs in close. Nice and deep with the breath. Keep that nice gentle squeeze in through the tummy. And releasing the legs. Changing over to the other leg. Let's allow that left leg to lengthen up towards the sky. Holding on around the back of the thigh. If you want to use a band or a belt or just a jumper, I'm finding just as useful, as long as you don't stretch out the arms. And we breathe nice and gently there. And seeing if that leg will ease with each breath. Notice for me again if you've got that chin jutting upwards. This one brings that on for a lot of us. Really tucking the chin in, lengthening across the back of the neck, adding a little cushion in if that makes things easier. And then we'll take that leg across the right knee, weaving the hands around the right thigh and easing the legs in close to us. Shoulders melting down the back. And then allowing the feet to rest down onto the floor. Taking a shoulder bridge just to finish off here. Allowing those feet to be just hip distance apart. We'll let the arms rest down by our sides. If you've got a cushion under your head, get rid of it now. You won't want it for the shoulder bridge. We'll take a deep breath in. We'll push the lower back into the floor. We'll peel the spine away from the ground, coming up bit by bit, piece by piece. And we keep moving until knees, hips and shoulders are in line with one another. Take a breath. And then breathing out as you float the vertebrae back down one by one, pressing the lower back into the floor, pelvis comes back to neutral, returning back to neutral. Take a breath here, breathing out, rolling up through the spine. Now if you want to, when you get to the top of the shoulder bridge this time, the arms can lift up towards the sky, or maybe all the way over the head, and leaving them there as you replace those vertebrae back down one by one. So we press the lower back into the floor, pelvis comes back to neutral, and we return the arms back by our side. Keep that going for me. You'll find that if you lift the arms up towards the sky, most people tell me that they then feel as though they get more purchase on the spine on the way back down. So you can get more sense of articulation through the vertebrae. If you're taking the arms up and over the head, you may find that it magnifies the sticky bits in the spine. So just find that place in between those two extremes where it feels as though it's challenging, but without it meaning that it's impossible. So we'll roll down. Let's add in a little abdominal curl up. So as we come to the end there, the fingertips start to reach towards the toes. The head and the shoulders lift away from the floor, shoulders melt down the back. Breathing in as we float back down. Once again through the shoulder bridge. And we'll see if that abdominal curl up can bring us all the way up to sitting. Some of us will think, no Emma, that's a stupid idea, I'm not going to do that. In which case you can come up to sitting in a way that works better for you. Otherwise we'll take that little reach, abdominal curl up, I'm going to let the legs stretch out in a way so that I can come up to sit. And once we get there, let's allow ourselves to come into a crouch position. Tucking the toes underneath us, finding a nice crouch position. We'll allow ourselves to gently rock forwards and backwards. Lovely. And then taking your time to gently bring yourself up to standing. I'm going to come up through a roll up through the spine, pressing the heels into the ground. But if that doesn't work for you, come up in a different way. Head is nice and heavy. Do take your time. We've been lying on the floor for a long time. Pressing into the feet. Tailbone descends down. Head comes on top. Last thing of all. And when we get there, let's take a deep breath in, reaching really tall. Breathing out, and we'll let it all go. Give it a good shake. Give yourself a round of applause. Well done, guys. So, Facebook Live people, thank you ever so much for checking in and doing the class with us today. Same time next week. We've got the class Monday at 9:15, and we've got class 9:30 on Friday. So I will hopefully see you then.